You're listening to the Platte River Bard.
Today, we talk to teaching artist and early education director Stephanie Jacobson of the Rose Theater. Stephanie is the director of the Rose's upcoming production, Corduroy. Hello, and welcome to the Platte River Bard. This is Chris Berger.
And I'm Sherry Berger.
And we are here this week at the Rose with Stephanie Jacobson. She is the director of early childhood. She is also a teaching artist, an actor, a playwright, and a director. Welcome to our podcast, and thanks for meeting us here at your place of work.
Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And we have another guest you brought as well.
Oh, yes, Corduroy.
Yes, Stephanie, of course,
We have two guests.
is directing the upcoming production here, Corduroy. And Corduroy is with her today.
Yeah, and he's our puppet because Corduroy is the bear who is on the search for his lost button to feel complete, so he can get purchased by Lisa, the little girl who wants nothing more than to have the bear. And she would get him right from the get-go. She's not concerned about the lost button, but he thinks that if he had that button, it would make him the perfect toy for her, and he could finally go home.
Oh, how sweet.
It is really sweet.
So how many people do we have in the cast? We've got Lisa, and then, of course, we've got the puppeteers as well, but what are the other how many other characters do we have in the show?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. We have 3 puppeteers, and who are Joe and Jackie and Kim. And then we have Lisa, who is actually, we have double cast the show so that the young artists who are playing him don't have to miss as much from school. And also, I really like to double cast young actors so they never have to make a decision if their health isn't really great or if they're feeling under the weather, and the family can be like, you know what, the other person should go on so they can rest, and or family emergency, any of those things that come up. So we have 2, and it's great because I didn't have to make a choice because they're both so good. Like, I would be so sad if we didn't have both of them. We have Nivi and Chase are both of our Lisas, and then we have the mom character who is played by Catherine. And we also have the night watchman who in this play, everything is going wrong for every one of the characters. And it is, but it's a huge farce. Like, it's so silly. The most ridiculous things happen. There's a lot of obstacles in the way. But yeah, Matthew, who's playing the night watchman, is such a gifted actor and a gifted clown. Like, it's so good. He does all the pratfalls. He falls backwards. He, stands on his hands. Like, all of the things that, it's just so silly. We are cracking up in rehearsal. He's like, it gets the jacket taken off, puts it on the wrong way. All of that. He's awesome.
Yes. Oh, I love that kind of stuff. Good physical comedy.
Oh, tons of it.
Like
things breaking and shaving cream spraying and a vacuum cleaners running away and exploding. It's wild. It's a wild show.
Now, when does this one open?
The 29th?
You guys are opening at the end of the month, so almost there.
We are. We're almost at the end. On Sunday will be the end of our second week.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So we are going to have our first stumble through tomorrow, where we're going to put everything together.
Okay.
Yeah, in an amazing cacophony of whatever it is. It'll be great.
It will be.
Yeah.
First time going all the way through with everything.
Yeah, it's super exciting.
Oh my God, that always is really exciting, especially I'm sure for a show that has some technical elements to it, and the puppetry.
Yeah.
Always got to be curious, how's it all going to look when you put it all together.
Right. And, with a show like this, even for the Lisa and the mom scenes are a little more like a typical play that you would see, very dialogue heavy. But the bear, Corduroy, the only thing he ever says is the word button. He doesn't say anything else but button.
Okay.
And the night watchman has a lot of monologues because he has his own recording device, and so he records himself on his daily, his nightly walk through the huge department store, Freeman's department store, and checking everything out. but when in rehearsing the show, because there are so many technical elements, it's a really articulated dance every scene, even for Lisa and the mom sometimes. But we started rehearsing everything without even using the text. We would just call out what we were doing. We would mark it, and then the actors would just say what they're doing. Now I'm looking for the button. Now I'm crawling on top. I'm falling off. My jacket is stuck. Like, I hear the vacuum, just so we are really aware of how to connect all of those things together.
Oh, neat.
And then we started putting in the dialogue around those. We call them our happenings.
Oh, wow. That's a neat
Interesting.
way to do that.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to be holding a script. So
Right.
they really trust, and they know the order of all the things that happen,
Yes.
and they know it from all of their senses rather than just reading what happens.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. Wow, that is fascinating. I've never tried to do something like that. That sounds like a lot of fun, actually.
It's probably some kind of special technique that.
Yeah, it's called desperation. No, I don't know what it's
Now, we know you said you have the 3 puppeteers with Corduroy.
Yeah.
And we got some puppeteering going on in this show. It is my understanding that this may not be your first experience with puppeteering.
I started off as a dancer, and then I got into acting. And while I was getting my MFA in acting, I was doing a lot of puppetry. And I've always been super into puppetry as a very young person.
Me too.
I mean, just right, like, I was born in the 70s, and so there's all
there
of
was
those
a lot
things.
of it going on.
Oh my gosh, it was awesome.
It was neat.
Yeah.
And so I've always been such a huge fan. And then in graduate school, I went to University of Iowa, and with their playwriting program, there were a lot of playwrights that were also, and some of the MFA directors were also really into puppetry. So we were just like bathing in it. We were having so much fun. And then after that, I moved to New York City, where I really primarily focused in puppetry. So, I got to be assistant to the. Gosh, all of a sudden I'm just like forgetting the name of the title, but to Jason Weber, who works there at Jim Henson Company. So I was his assistant. So a lot of as assistant things do, where you get to track and look at old puppets and get things ready. So I was learning a lot from that. And I worked in the studio. So I would be working with all of the people that were building the Muppets right then and sewing new characters. And it was at the time that Abby Cadabby came out on Sesame Street too.
Okay.
So to watch Raleigh make that, then everyone there was just the most generous and most kind. And a lot of my job was to also track older puppets. So from like the Labyrinth and all of these shows, to go and look at stuff. And so they would have me checking like stitching and all of those things. So I really got to learn the like very, very basics of everything, and prop making for them. And it was really great. And at this, it was really fun.
What a kind of a dream job.
I was very lucky. I started as their receptionist because I was just like stars and eyes moving to New York City, and I knew where their studio was because I had sent a resume many, many, many times, even when I was in undergraduate college. And so I just walked up to the building, to their East Side mansion, and the door was open. And I walked in, and someone's like, "Well, how did you get in? Who are you? How did you get in?" I was like, "Oh, the door was open." And they're like, "Oh," and I was like, "Here's my resume." And they're like, "What? Who are you?" And they're like, "Well, we are looking for a part-time receptionist." So I started there as a part-time receptionist.
Oh, it's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah, and then worked up. Yeah.
That's awesome. See, the door was supposed to be open.
Right.
That's how that
Exactly.
goes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very silly. So it's all those things, like just be determined and follow your passion, and know that, in order to learn something, it's not that I needed a job as a puppeteer there. Anyway, I was learning all kinds of things in all the different departments there at Jim Henson Company as well. And they were just so generous with me. I can't say enough about the humans there. So.
Oh,
That's
how
nice to
neat.
hear.
What a
It's nice
neat
to hear.
experience.
Yeah.
That is nice to hear.
And how long were you there?
I was there for about 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and at the same time, I was working in living in New York City. I was also doing a lot of puppetry for a woman who's passed away. Her name is Liz Swados. She is a famous playwright. She had a famous play called The Runaways, and we were working on a new play of hers at the Flea Theater. So she had some puppets that were needed for that. And then I also worked with Lee Brewer of the Mabou Mines and did an international tour of his doll's house because they had some marionettes in that. So
cool.
Toured around with that too.
In Kansas City, it was a show that ran in Kansas City, The Dollhouse.
Oh, the show was, so it's based on Ibsen's The Doll's House, and it was and then it was, they called it, the title was The Mabou Mines, A Doll's House, and it toured. I was in South Carolina, and we went to Germany and Japan. They traveled on a lot more because we moved here to Omaha after that, but. And so they had all kinds of puppets. And their show was really interesting because they had all of the female characters in that show were all average size female identifying humans. And then all the male identifying characters were all little people. And the set was built. Yeah, there were, it was so cool. And the actors
off of
were.
A Doll's House, which is, what a strange way to adapt that play.
It was great. Lee Brewer, who just passed about a year ago, he was like, I mean, so integral to so many different forms of theater. And he was awesome to work with. He provided a really amazing opportunity. I was really grateful.
Wow.
That sounds amazing.
It does sound amazing. And it's not like you probably got a lot of puppetry experience at school. I mean, you got some during your getting your MFA, but this was truly how you learned the art of puppetry.
Yeah, just from like hands-on and working with different companies and people. I worked with Eric Wright, who's from Lincoln, actually, and he lives in New York, and they have a group called the Puppet Kitchen, and so I did an internship with them, too, in New York City. Oh, wow. And then, and just learning a bunch of different things. There's really not many, especially when I was going to school in the late 90s. There weren't a lot of programs for puppetry. There is one in University of Connecticut that has a MFA in puppetry. Okay. And then I was lucky enough just about 5 years ago or so, I got to, was accepted into the playwriting program for puppetry at the Eugene O'Neill Festival. So got to work on how do you write plays for puppets. And there was all this amazing puppetry going on with all these different puppeteers to learn how to build different mechanisms and to work on physical puppetry and shadow puppetry and all of that. And from my time in New York is when we did Prancer here. Oh gosh, I don't know, is it like 4 years ago? But Eric, a different Eric, I met him in New York, and so he's the one who came to build the beautiful Prancer reindeer puppet. I learned so much from him, Eric Novak, and I worked with him in New York too on some really amazing shadow puppetry work too. I mean, you just got to go and find internships and audition for shows and
just dig in.
Yeah.
So how many puppets do you think you've built so far?
Oh gosh, just a lot, and some have not been very good. But I think you can get away with a lot if you know how to move them.
Right.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I would think I'm a better puppet performer than a builder.
Okay.
I would say, if I had to sell myself, I'd be like, I can puppeteer that. And because I also got to learn from when The Woodsman was at the Blue Barn, I got to perform in that show too. So I got to work with James on that, and it was just oh my gosh, his puppets are amazing. So
wow, how neat. What a neat experience.
Yeah, I've been so lucky.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And so when you were working with Jim Henson, you never got a chance to actually work with him, right? Like he was
he'd been passed away for a while.
I
knew his daughter Cheryl, who ran the Jim Henson Foundation, who was actually you know what's so funny? It's so funny when you say that. I'm just thinking of this. So Matthew Walters, who's the set designer for Corduroy, he and I had put in an application for the Jim Henson Foundation to get a grant to work on a piece that we had come up. It was called Bagak Bagak. It will happen one day.
All right.
But yeah, we had gotten the Jim Henson Foundation grant So Matthew and I have known Matthew, our set designer, for a really long time. So we were going to be able to work on this puppet piece that we are creating. But then I moved here to Omaha. And then Matthew moved to Chicago and then Kansas City. So life moves us.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Those are both good towns.
Yeah.
Chris is from Kansas City, so I can say that.
I love Kansas City.
Yeah, I like it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good town.
Yeah.
We lived there for a while. It was nice.
Yeah, we were there again for a while.
Yeah.
Now,
Absolutely.
speaking of the shadow puppetry thing, didn't you say you had a bunch of experience with, and I know I'm going to say this wrong, is it bunraku?
Oh, yeah. But yes. Yeah. You said it exactly right. Although probably if I would meet someone who spoke Japanese, they'd probably say that we weren't.
Yeah,
But
they
I'm going to
probably
say
messed it
that
up.
you did it just perfect. So bunraku is a type of Japanese, an ancient type of Japanese puppetry that utilizes 3 puppeteers. So the lead or head puppeteer would manipulate the head and the left arm, and the secondary puppeteer would manipulate the back and the right arm, and then the third puppeteer would manipulate the feet.
Wow.
And so it really is like an ancient, beautiful. It is so delicate and very lifelike. And the puppetry pieces are not done with, the head puppeteers are not speaking the words. There is a storyteller, and I'm forgetting the Japanese name for it, but there's a storyteller who also plays an instrument at the same time, who tells the story, and the puppets act it out. And the puppets are about 3/4 the size of a usual human size. And the head puppeteer wears these beautiful wooden shoes that are really, really tall, so that he can be standing up high enough to reach the head. So he's taller than the other
Than the
3
others.
puppeteers.
Wow. What an intricate thing to come up with a specific name on how it's mechanized.
Yeah.
Are there others as well? Are there other like specific types of puppetry that are that detailed as to 3 people on one puppet doing it in a certain way, or?
Oh yeah, that's a
There's-
really great question. There is types of puppetry from every culture, and they all range in different forms of manipulation and artistry. I wouldn't say, I guess not artistry, because everything is highly artistic and beautiful, but it's just a different way of how it's done. The other type of puppetry that I know the most about, I would say, is shadow puppetry, Indonesian puppetry. And that is traditionally made with leather. And so they punch it out and get really, really thin and paint it. And so I just worked, we've done one here at a lot of shadow puppetry in many performances here. And I especially love doing it with young people. It's really great to take them from the build to the performance to see. And you can do it with color. You can do it with just black and white. We did a really fun version with little ones that we did James and the Giant Peach, but for all of the stuff that, the peach fell, we created all of that and acted it out real time behind the screen, and all the animals, and at that one we had so much fun too, because we made all of our costumes out of cardboard boxes. We just got really into the paper in the building. They were so into it. It's so exciting to bring them into every part of the process.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they get to see it on stage. That has to be really exciting for them.
Yeah, and it's a different thing than usually we think that, theater is just you standing on the stage saying the lines with the other people, which it is, and it's a beautiful way to tell a story and to see yourself. But there's something else, for me at least, I really like doing real physical theater. So it's not really like just Stephanie walking around. It's a very different character. It has a very different physical movement, as well as shadow puppetry and puppetry. It's someone really doing it. It's something that your body can't do, or it has to be done differently.
Yeah.
I always wonder what the fascination is with it. And I think for me, when I've seen productions that have puppetry in it, I always see it as very introspective, kind of like outside of yourself, and yet really introspective when you see the puppets done a certain way.
Oh, I love hearing it like that. Yeah, I mean, I think the reason why I'm so excited to do a puppet in this is the way that the script is written is that it goes from an actor playing Corduroy in a bear costume and doing all the physical stuff that the bear does. And then when the night watchman comes on, there's a interchanging of a stuffed animal. So the night watchman holds it. And as fun as that is, because also Barry Kornhauser, who wrote this, is one of the most generous, lovely human beings ever. I just adore him. He has always been so kind, and when in meeting him, and he's been so supportive. He's just so lovely. And he was like, oh, it's so fun and so magical to see that change. And I was like, oh my gosh, it is. That's really exciting. Also, what an awesome opportunity to have an inanimate object really come to life, and to really see that as a kid, when you're playing with your bear, but to really see it come to life and do all those things rather than it being a human. I think there's so much value in both things, but especially because I'm drawn to giving inanimate things a soul. I get really excited about it. Yeah, like Toy Story. I mean, it's very much like Toy Story, where he can move when there's nobody else in the room, but when there's someone there, it's not like he's hiding or turning off. It's just that he's not able to.
Yeah. No, that's really neat.
Yeah.
And I thought Corduroy was a book. So did you guys do an adaptation of the story into your script? So it's a Rose production?
Well, Rose purchased the rights to it. Barry Kornhauser adapted and wrote this play, and it's been produced, I believe, at 2 other theaters where it was in development for. And so the rights became available, and we had read it, 3 or 4 years ago through script development here. And we, I shouldn't say necessarily script development. I would say the education staff and other people on our staff read scripts that we're thinking about that Matt is thinking about for our season. And so this was one that is a really sweet story. All the characters have so much that's at stake. There's a lot of urgency. It's also a book that a lot of people, have really come to love over the years.
Yeah, I would say it's been around since
68. It was published in 1968.
Yeah, because I thought I remembered it when I was in kindergarten. It was it's been around a long damn time.
I bet it's going to be a beautiful production though, and the Rose is just so beautiful anyway, and I bet the stage is going to be amazing.
Oh, that's so sweet of you. You know what? Everyone who's working on it is incredibly talented. We have a beautiful set. It is a huge show because there's so many things. There's 16 scenes, and I think there are 11 different locations. There is a lot going on, and everyone has just worked so hard, and it's so beautiful. The prop, all these wild things have to happen to the props, and things have to fall apart, and the actors are working so hard on it, and the costumes, oh my gosh, they're just, Zach is doing costumes for it. They're so beautiful, and we have a great stage manager, and our sound design and our lighting design. It's just, it's going to be really exciting. The thing is, it's just, I would let people know is that it does have a lot of heart to it, but it is a really silly, fun show. It is for, when you read the book, it's just so sweet, and I'm like a huge Charlotte's Web fan. I love that kind of children's literature. And Barry has really taken it, and how do you take this book that doesn't have that many happenings? He's really found such a fun way to expand the story and really make it about Lisa and Corduroy finding each other and really having a huge need to have to have each other as friends, and through a really silly path, which is fun.
Yeah. Well, that's how life goes sometimes too. So that's great. So you do even more than just directing here at the Rose. You have something called Little Rosies that you do.
So as I tell everyone, I can't believe I'm lucky enough to get paid to do what I do, but I get to teach musical theater classes for ages 1.5 to 8 years old. And we have this program, Little Rosies, where it's musical theater classes that we take out into daycares and preschools to teach even the littlest learners about singing and dancing and acting. And I have some wonderful cohort teachers, Delaney and Natalie, who are, they're gifts. They're such great pre-K teachers. We also have a program called the Pre-K Enrichment, which we visit 22 schools about 1,300 students, and we do 3 visits a year, 3 to 4 visits a year in their pre-K classroom or Head Start classroom.
Okay.
And working on all kinds of different curriculum using creative drama. And then I also get to be a teacher that I direct young people's musicals, and I help with the high school internship, and I direct conservatory, and mentorship, and I have to enter my mileage. Actually, I'm just thinking about that. That's also mileage. But I just get so lucky to do all these things and grow all this programming.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great that you get to direct and do all the other things as well. You're not just pigeonholed into one particular role. You get to do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all get to do a lot of different
Yeah.
stuff here, which is great.
And how do you teach a 1.5-year-old about theater?
What's it like with the little 1.5-year-olds? Yeah.
It is wonderful. It's wonderful, and it's silly, and it's hilarious, and I'm a big fan of a lot of structure, and
Okay.
so we have a very strong structure of how we start our class, and we always say we have a little thing where we say, we can sing, we can dance, we can act. And I say, who are we? And they say, the little Rosie.
Oh.
And so therefore we do our singing activity. So if we do solfege, we do it by jumping on dots. So I'm trying to make sure that we're using all of the learning modals, like to make sure that we're allowing even our students who aren't really speaking yet, they're still working on singing and moving their bodies and making sound, even if it's not necessarily the right
Yeah.
sound,
Sure.
but
Wow.
any sound and feeling brave in that way.
Yeah.
Sue Bhutan, who is a wonderful human here at the Rose, she said something to me many, many years ago, and she said, the thing about helping young people learn about singing especially is that so many people don't do it because they're so afraid to do it wrong. So the more we start people younger starting to do it, to build their confidence, they're going to just learn that they can do it, and it's so joyful, and just building young people's confidence so that they're used to, and we use music vocabulary, we use all of these things in our lessons. We don't shy away from doing piano and forte, just because we have all kinds of songs, and they learn a little. They're learning bushel and a peck right now, all the little ones, so they're funny.
Are you still offering some virtual, or is it in person right now with masks, or?
Yeah, everything, all of those are in person.
Yeah, because you guys were doing virtual for a while. I bet that was
were.
a challenge.
Yeah, it was still fun, and they, I think just like everyone discovered last year, like everything is possible as long as like everyone is dedicated to being flexible and creative and figuring it out and communicative. So
Right.
yeah.
I agree.
For sure. Well, I don't want to ignore
Corduroy.
Mr. Corduroy here.
He's pretty happy hanging out there.
Yeah, when-
I know he's so cozy.
when you were talking about the sort of the art of bunraku,
Yeah.
is that essentially what you guys are doing with Corduroy, with the 3 puppeteers, and with the
Yeah.
head and the feet and the.
We call it kind of westernized.
Okay.
Well, I just want to make
Modified.
sure. Modified. Ooh, I like that.
yeah.
Okay,
Modified,
modified. Just because we really do lean into the fact that he is a stuffed animal and can move different. We're not trying to get him to move like a human.
Right. Because he's
But
supposed to be.
he's
a
supposed to be
stuffed
kind of
animal.
bouncy and
Yeah.
jumpy, and his arms can swoosh around. But we do have mainly Jackie and Joe are on this puppet, so that one human will manipulate the head and the other will hold the back, because we don't want to ever have everything just held by the head, so that the neck is taking all the weight.
Right.
And then we have two what do you call this? Handles. That's what they are. They're
Yes, they're
handles.
handles.
Handles on the back of the feet, so that someone can hold them by that way, rather than just grabbing the feet. Now, with the hands, we don't have any handles or something that we would mechanize the hand because there's so many things that he has to grab himself. So usually we just kind of grab behind the arm to show arm movement, or we just use the puppeteer just uses their own hand to grab an object.
Oh, wow.
And it it just works.
Right.
Thankfully. Yeah, and I've just taken a stuffed bear. And actually, we have 2 of them, just in case, we need to switch last minute. And,
Right.
Yeah.
But just done it so that I use, and this is a thing so that everyone can make anything, but my favorite place is to go to Lowe's. So they did not sponsor this, but I love them. I sponsor Lowe's myself. But I just used like scrubbing brushes.
I just wanted,
Yeah, just to put in. So I open the back and put it in and then reinforce it on the inside and on the out. And then also in the head, it's like a squeegee that's in here. It actually goes like ear to ear.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, just to be able to use that handle in there. They have already a really nice anatomically like great grip to them.
Yeah.
And then on the back are those little scrub brushes you use in the kitchen on your dishes. And as well as I weighted the feet with some rocks
Right,
and the
so it has
hands, so
some
they have a
movement.
little bit of like a nice bit of bounce and weight to them.
Yeah.
And I also made sure that the neck was really reinforced, as well as sewing it up with a lot of extra elastic so that it has a lot of give and can move around a lot. And I really reinforced the hips on it too, so that usually a stuffed bear is just really solid all the way through, but that way he can sit a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can bend a little. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's so neat. And I bet kids in your Q&A want to, after the show, when they come up and ask questions, I bet they want to touch them and see how
I hope
all it's
so.
going to work. So,
Yeah, I hope so. We're
Fascinating.
Yeah. I'm hoping that there's an opportunity that we'll have one available to friends who want to do anything. I'm not going to say it because I haven't gotten permission. But whatever. That's why there's 2. There's 2 things. So.
no, you always have to have a backup. But that is so neat. I'm really anxious to see it. It sounds like a really wonderful
Yes.
story.
Oh, thanks.
And it looks
Thank
like
you.
you guys are really have thought it through. It's going to be a really thoughtful and pretty production.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be fun, and it's a huge set because the whole thing takes place on just. We're using double locations so that we don't have to do a lot of transitions. So it's when you walk in, it's just it's ginormous. They have done such a beautiful job of building this set for us. They're amazing.
And he's just a little guy on that big stage.
That's right.
It's so cute, right?
Yeah,
It'll be
totally.
great.
And he gets
Oh.
to be the star of the show.
Yes. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for
thank
making
you.
time for us today. We know you're
Super busy.
super busy.
Oh, well, thank you for thinking of us and having us and taking time out of your schedule. And, I'm
course.
no more busy than the average human during a pandemic is, we're all, yeah, right.
It was so nice to meet you this time in person.
Oh,
Maybe next
yeah.
time we can do it without masks even. We'll get there eventually.
We'll get there.
We will,
First time
won't
virtual,
we?
second time mask, third time.
Maybe
Hopefully it'll be
everything will
over.
be back to
I
normal.
know, that would be excellent. I would
Yeah.
like to see your smile. so-
It would be nice.
And nice to meet you, Corduroy. Good luck. Break all the teddy bear legs.
That's right.
Oh my gosh, you're so cute.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And as a reminder, Corduroy runs from October 29th to November 14th at the Rose Theater in Omaha.
Thank you for listening and supporting the arts in the Platte River area and beyond. Please subscribe to our podcast so you are sure to catch all of our future episodes and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Music for this podcast was used with permission by Screaming Skull Productions. See you next time on the Platte River Bard.